Welcome to Helping Organisations Thrive. Today, I have the pleasure of Paul Unwin. Welcome, Paul.
Good morning. Hi.
Good to see you, Paul. Just going to tell the audience a little bit about you. You're the Smart Motorways Programme Regional Lead Sponsor for Highways England, and you've worked in many roles within Highways England for over 26 years. So you've got a plethora of experience in that particular sector. But you're also the visiting lecturer at the Coventry University for the Global Leaders Programme and also the Civil Engineering course. And so that's good. And today we are going to be exploring how we develop emerging leaders. It's a bit of a passion for myself, and I know it's a passion for you as well. So I'm hoping for a good conversation. But before we get into that, I just want to ask you, what do you love about what you do?
Yeah, thank you. And so I've been involved in construction in all my working life, really, as a client. And what really kind of drives me and gets me up in the morning is the whole range of what construction is about. I see schemes right from, the concept right through to benefits realization. So with the work I'm doing on smart motorways, part of my role is putting together the business case, all the kind of the benefits, looking at what it means for people, and I'm really more concerned around the outcomes rather than the outputs. So our delivery teams obviously deliver all the technology, drains, pavement, structures. What I'm interested in is the difference it makes for the economy, for connecting businesses, for connecting families together. And it's a joy when you work with a scheme, for 3, 4, 5, 6 years from that initial concept, taking it right the way through to seeing the outcome and the benefits it gives in terms of more reliable journey times, safer, etc., and extra capacity. So yeah, love it.
Yeah, and I love it that you like the outcomes as opposed to the sort of in the actual project itself, because you're involved in massive long-term project that costs millions. But it's great that you like the outcomes, which is why I think you have this thing about leadership as well, because you love the outcomes of what that brings to an organization and what that brings to the individuals involved. And emerging leaders I think it's really important to harness that potential and harness that sort of ability and skill set within the organization. So just going back into that, from your own experience, and you've had a lot of experience, how have you spotted somebody is deemed as like an emerging leader? What sort of characteristics have you found that you've gone, they look like they could be on for more, therefore I'm going to spend a bit more time with them?
Yeah, there's definitely a range of skill sets, and it's I kind of combine it all under the heading of positive behaviors, really, of flexibility, of wanting to contribute and take part and get involved, and almost also go that extra mile. There's a curiosity with some people, with young people, of what that's about. They definitely kind of stand out. What started it for me, Julian, was I'm on one of the assessors for our graduate program within Highways England, and we have a lot of good candidates. But some of the candidates I was very concerned kind of didn't have the kind of communication skills to be engaging, to do something like this. So that's what started me off going into Coventry University as a visiting lecturer. I was at an event, and I got talking to one of the executives there, and I said to them, you've got some really good people, but really they could do with somebody coming in and talking to them about what business is like and what our expectations are as employers. And it is soft skills. So I go on and talk about positive leadership behaviors, about not being afraid to contribute, not being afraid to have a view. So I think it's really, really hard. I think I think back to when I started in work, and probably same for you, Julian. It's like, what is common here, what is usual here, what is expected here. Am I allowed to have an opinion? Am I allowed to have a voice? And that's a lot of the work that I do. You definitely are, and we want to hear from you. I want to hear your different perspectives. We're very much more diverse and an inclusive workplace, thank goodness. Still a lot more to do in that space there, but That's what I'm doing every day, working on inclusion and diversity and giving our young future leaders a voice.
That's great. And have you in your time, obviously either through the graduate sort of programs you run in your business, have you got any examples where perhaps you spotted somebody and perhaps they didn't even think themselves they were an emerging leader? Because I think sometimes people don't always realize. And have you got an example where you saw somebody, you saw some aspects, and then started to create and give some encouragements for that, I guess?
Yeah, absolutely. And very recently, actually. So we take our graduates on every September. They start with us. And we've taken graduates on through lockdown as well, which has been a very interesting experience for them and for us. Some of the graduates we'd never met face to face. But what we do and what I do is I set up kind of mentoring meetings with them. And one in particular started with us in September 2019. I have to think of the dates now. I feel like we've lost a year. 2019, they're in their second year. And they came to us actually from Coventry University. But they came to us with a kind of psychology degree, which was very interesting. And the first question is, why do you want to be into project management? And a lot of it was around their interest in organizational behavior. So it's certainly not the case, when we're looking at future leaders in our business that we, just default to civil engineers. It's very much open. And I've had, people study politics, sociology, psychology, business, all these different ranges, because it's very much those kind of business skills and having an interest in how people think. So with this particular individual, she was clearly had a voice. She clearly wanted something to say and wanted to make a difference. So in my mentoring meetings with her, I kind of provided opportunities. And part of the thing that I do as a mentor, and I think what most mentors do, is signpost our mentees to opportunities to get involved and to kind of shadow some of the senior leaders in the business, but also kind of shadow me and work with me talking to other students. So I took her with me to listen to one of my kind of lectures back at Coventry University, and I asked her to kind of, if you feel comfortable, contribute. And she did, and she was really, really good. And I think the students could relate to her, because I think it's really, really hard, that transition, I think, from university into business. And she shared what it was like for her, what her journey was on that, and how, she had to kind of reassess her position. And anyone moving from one business to another, or a university into business, you build a kind of friendship and a network and a status in an organization, and you have to kind of rebuild that. So a lot of the work I do is absolutely right. Is building that confidence, getting involved. Don't be afraid to contribute. And she's gone on now. We've got something called a graduate and apprentice network within our organization, and she's very much heading that because kind of helped to build up that confidence and shown her that she has got a voice. And she is from a kind of BAME background as well. She's taking very much an interest in diversity and inclusion as well, which is great to see.
Brilliant. And it's you clearly have not just yourself, but your organization has a real involvement in taking, whether it's graduates or young leaders, and investing in them and growing them. Has it always been like that in your organization? And how did you create that sort of culture? Because there's a lot of organizations do it almost perhaps to either tick box or just to get real talent, and that's it. And are they truly sort of developing talent for the long term, or just very short term? They're quite cheap graduates in terms of cost in that sense. Are they truly investing in them? So did you make as an organization a real sort of step change or a strategic intent for that? And how did you develop sort of culture across not yourself, just other sort of leaders in the organization?
Yeah, really, really good question. And it's been a journey for us over a number of years. I think, going back 10 years, our graduate program would have looked very, very different. It was strictly kind of civil engineers, electrical engineers, etc. But we've developed into a very good program. Even, I would say that, but I think when you look across businesses, ours is marked as one of the best in terms of what we offer. So we offer a good rate of pay to begin with, and it's a 3-year program, and it's across a number of different skill sets. So it can be accounting, it can be electrical engineering, quantity surveying, civil engineering, of course, but general kind of project management as well. And in that 3 years, we put the graduates on some professional kind of training. So the Association of Project Management courses, for example, APM, or if it's accounting, then the relevant kind of accounting courses. So they'll end their graduate placement with, hopefully, a professional qualification. Within the 3 years as well, they'll have lots of placements within different bits of the business. So usually between kind of 6 months and 9 month placements. We give them the first placement, but then we want them to work to find their own kind of placements in, as they go through the program, which is really good because it gets them kind of thinking themselves about what they do want to do, and just as important, actually, what they don't want to do. For myself, I'm more kind of inclined to the kind of the politics, the media and comms, not so much on the kind of process side of procedures. It's really good, that we have people that like that and enjoy that. And a lot of it is understanding, people's personalities and their preferences. One of the things I like to suggest to the grads as they come in is do an MBTI, do a 16 personalities test to find out, what your personal profile is, just to get some self-awareness. That will help you, and it will help the team as well to understand you. So we do that very regular with our teams.
Because developing people and leaders is not just about skills of, whether it's an accountancy course or an engineering sort of professional type of qualification. It's the people element, it's the soft skills as well, isn't it? And because leadership is not just about, I've got numerous degrees or qualification. It is about the soft skills. And just on that, is your emerging leaders, are they just all graduates, or do you take people who actually don't have a degree and you spot somebody who's got an element of potential? And again, do you have a way of developing those people as opposed to just people from a sort of graduate background?
Yes, certainly. So there are various ways of getting on in the business. We take apprentices on. We've got a very good apprentice program. We've got a graduate program, but we've got the kind of general program as well. So I mentor a number of people across the business, whether they're graduates or apprentices or not, or whether they've kind of come in and have just kind of working their way through the business. Because it's there is that kind of the school of life, the school of hard knocks, if you like, approach to business and to leadership, which is just as valid. I've often said, if I've kind of two people in front of me, one with kind of a great civil engineering degree on paper, but they haven't got the communication skills, and somebody with the comm skills and not the the paperwork, I'm going to pick up with the communication skills, because I can teach civil engineering much quicker than I can the personality approach, the soft skills, the kindness, understanding, gratitude, respect, dignity, all of the things that make my day at work more interesting and less painful. Just treating each other with dignity and respect, and especially as I keep coming back to kind of diversity and inclusion as well, very much a multicultural workspace. I work in Birmingham, very much a multicultural city, which I love, and our workforce reflects that, and is doing more so as well. And we're having those open conversations around things like white privilege. What does that mean? And we need to hear about that, about what life is like for non-white people in our people of color in our business, what have your difficulties been, and how can we change things? Still got a huge way to go, but we're having, open and honest conversations about that now. And, again, with our young leaders as well, just understanding, especially if our young leaders are people of color as well, really talking to them about what leadership is, and maybe some of the kind of struggles they've had in the past, and what we can do as a company to help and assist you and make our environment comfortable for you.
Yeah, you made an interesting point on the whole diversity and inclusion. I think it's good to start, as people enter an organization, to really start to open their minds to that way of thinking, as opposed to trying to almost reset those unconscious bias later on, because we'll all come with a bias, but if you can start to instill, and it's not just about training, is it? It's more about just observing other people, how they respond and react, and make decisions in context of diversity and inclusion. In terms of when you spot an emerging leader, whether they're a graduate program or they're not a graduate program, they're just somebody you think of some potential, what are the sort of support or things you will do? I mean, I know from my own experience, when I saw somebody who had sort of high potential, I would start to test that high potential by giving them, a project or some more responsibility, with obviously support. I just think, what are the sort of things you're doing yourself or as an organization that starts to almost test that potential? Because it does need to be tested, doesn't it?
It does. And I'll come back to the graduate program. So it's definitely, we give people responsibility, and the word I use is ownership. Yeah, ownership of a project, however small or big. It's really, really important for those people, whether graduates or not, or whatever role that they're in, to have that ownership. It's theirs. It's their baby, if you like, because then they will invest in it, invest time in it. And you're absolutely right. I'm there. I'm kind of ultimately accountable and responsibility for the outcomes. Coming back to that word, but I'm not going to sit there and say to Fred, this is the piece of work, I want you to do it this way, do that, and you will get that. Not how we operate. I share what the outcomes are. This is the expectation of what the outcome will look like, but I want you to think about how you're going to achieve that, and bounce ideas off me, certainly, but you'll come to it with probably a very different perspective than I will. And that's what I'm interested in. I'm interested in those very different views of, what that outcome should look like. And in many ways, I don't really care how you get there, as long as it's, to time, cost, and quality. Those are the kind of three things that we'll know about. But that's the only kind of boundaries I'm going to put in. I'm not going to dictate how you should do it. I think that kind of micromanagement just isn't appropriate. With some people,
I totally agree, and it's actually it's releasing. It's not just releasing to them, but it releases their potential, because you're truly empowering them. And I used to have this sort of phrase: "I'm going to point you the way, but I'm not going to give you the map." And it's that sense of, this is where I want you to get to, as you said, the outcome, but I'm going to allow you to think about how you're going to go about that. By, you can interact with me or interact with others, and it creates that almost that critical thinking. But also, they'll come up with stuff that you didn't even think about, which is what you want them to do and grow and develop.
And creating an environment also where they're allowed to fail. I talk about kind of falling off the bike and getting back on the bike. So let me just take kind of a minute to describe that. So any parents out there with children, they've taught their child to ride a bike. What's the first thing that's going to happen when they get their new bike? They're going to fall off it. It's an expectation. And, the child will look at the parent and see, is my parent going to be angry with me, or are they going to shout with me? But clearly we're not, because we know, that's the expectation. That's how you learn, and we're going to be there to support you. Take that into the workplace, especially with our new young emerging talent. They want to do the right thing, but we as leaders know and expect and kind of want them to fall off and learn and do it that way. And we are there to support them and definitely get them back on the bike. So a lot of the work that I do is getting our people back on the bike. When we talk about showing appreciation and gratitude, often that's reserved for kind of times of celebration when work has gone well. And I think we can all do that, and that's lovely, and that's it's the right thing to do. But it's even, for me, even more appropriate and even more so when something goes wrong. That's when our future leaders kind of need our support to say, what you did there, kind of expected that to happen. But I'm here for you. Let's work through this together, because I want to get you back on the bike, and I want you to kind of learn from that. And I know you won't do that again. And I'm here to support and guide you through it. I think if we don't provide that support, if we just go in and say, you're an idiot, blame you, the blame culture, then that just kills all conversations. We lose that talent. They don't even want to kind of contribute in meetings then, because they feel really shut down. I've seen it so often, and I've had it happen to me in the past. Some kind of leaders sadly still shut down any kind of opposing voice or any different opinions. And I work very, very hard to, encourage a different voice and new voice and speak up, and don't be afraid to make a mistake.
And I agree with you. I think mistakes are where we make the most learnings, but it's making sure that failure, I don't call it failure, I call it feedback. It's an opportunity for feedback, is a conversation, and as you're right, that helping people get on the bike, instilling that confidence again. What did they learn when they were on the floor, and how they fell off. It's those conversations that starts to embed it, and they start realizing actually this thing of failure or making a mistake is a learning opportunity, which next time embeds and creates the better behaviors, and then you start to constantly unlock that potential, which is what you want to do. As I say, as soon as you start telling somebody they're rubbish and that's not very good, people don't want to know. They're just going to retreat.
It's one of the biggest issues for us, about how we get alongside our people and encourage them, even through kind of poor performance. And it's kind of a say to colleagues, you're going to expect that poor performance first of all, because they're learning to ride the bike. They're still learning to do that. And almost things around the expectation around the workplace. We as leaders need to call out the kind of poor behaviors in others. One of the things that we all recognize is the kind of long working culture, for us, long working hours, which I call out a lot. And I think we're doing more in the business to do that. It used to be very macho, very aggressive. I've worked till 10 o'clock and I'll be up at 2 o'clock in the morning and I'm going to be working hard and do this kind of thing. And I look at them and part of me says, well, that's probably poor time management. And at best, it's not sustainable. And kind of, what about your family? And I'm sure they don't appreciate those long hours as well. So, it's a big thing for me. And especially, I think COVID hasn't helped that. There are a lot of long hours now. And, just for anybody watching this, just think about the hours that you're working and also the people that you're responsible for. And I would definitely encourage open conversations. And as a leader, call it out, that we, they may be thinking, young people especially, that they're doing the right thing because that's what they see around them. But no, as leaders, we cast a shadow. They're looking for what we do. And I always try and present, the position of, my phone's going to go off at 6:30 and I'm not going to switch it on till 8 in the morning. And that's it, and my family is my family. My work is my work. And if I say that and others say that, then I think the message gets over. But we got to walk the talk as well.
I think for me, it just highlights, which you just wonderfully explained, is role modeling. And one of the biggest impacts, I think, often as leaders, we forget the power of role modeling. And we can put mentoring programs in, we can put all the graduate programs in, but if you're not, walking the talk, so to speak, and in fact, every young leader or anybody is observing you, whether it's subconsciously or consciously, and there is such power in the role modeling. So it's important that we are displaying that, and not just obviously the boundaries which you've just set out, but other aspects of how we go about, whether we sort of flap when a project goes wrong, or we I don't know, go into a depression when things don't go quite right. It's that modeling and how we go about things. So as we're developing these emerging leaders in organizations, what would be your, I guess, you can call it pitfalls or watch outs, if another leader's out there listening and thinking, okay, we want to really encourage this, but what are the things to just be aware of in that context from your own experience, just to help people as they navigate through this?
Yeah, I think as leaders, I think we need to be, and we touched upon it there, kind of consistent in our behaviors, you know. And you're absolutely right. Our young emerging leaders are like sponges. They're watching us for how we react in different situations. You know, I talk about kind of building on fire conversations. Like with some leaders, everything is, you know, we got to do this now. We got to go this, and we're doing it this way, and that is it. And then the next day, they may be completely different. It's like, okay, well, you know, well, I'm not sure now. What do you think about this? And for me, I struggle with that, and I struggle with that kind of different kind of approach. Somebody, you know, it's almost like they've woken up as a different person the next day. I try to provide a level of consistency of my approach, so it's not a kind of a shock to my people of, you know, which Paul is going to turn up today, which one of your facets. So that, I think that is helpful to our young leaders, that we provide a level of consistency, that we definitely kind of role model those behaviors, you know, walking that talk, and the kind of basics actually, it comes down to sometimes just kind of being kind, you know, having time for our people on a one-to-ones. I'm a big believer in one-to-ones, and actually making them quite formal. I try and go out for a coffee, and I'm really looking forward to those times when we can do that again back in the office. So we have our virtual coffees here, and we just chat about stuff. We chat about, you know, kind of in one-to-ones. Sometimes I'll say, I'm only going to ask you 3 questions. The first one's going to be, how are you? The second one's going to be, no, how are you really? And the third one's going to be, well, no, let's talk about how you are. And sometimes you don't kind of get to, you know, the detail of work. I think the best one-to-ones aren't work discussions at all. It's how are you feeling about stuff? You know, how can I offer any more support for you? And what's going on in your life? What are the barriers and what are the boundaries to you being your best self at work? You know, those kind of conversations are the ones that I really enjoy, and that's, I think they're really kind of mentoring conversations. So, you know, definitely make time to, you know, be a mentor. It's one of the most rewarding experiences that you will ever have, being a mentor, and then seeing that young mind grow and be a leader as well in your organization, and, you know, in wider organizations as well. Been doing this for long now. I've got lots of kind of connections now who've moved on and are in leadership positions themselves. So and it's fostering them that they can be them. So I'm not looking for kind of mirrors of me at all, and that's important to say. Not creating others are like me. I enjoy that the different perspectives, and hopefully giving them space to step into, you know, their self-awareness of the type of person and leadership they want to bring, and let them do that.
Okay. So it requires commitment, doesn't it? I think it's, you don't take on a strategy of developing leaders through the business without a sense of commitments and support, which you just mentioned, but also that, and we just talked about before, that allowing those sort of failures to happen as well, be an expectation that things won't be quite as we expect right at the start, which is important to be aware of when you're trying to raise people up. And it's important to raise people up because they're the future generation and the future of leadership, and also creates a nice, wonderful learning and development sort of culture as well for everybody. It's not just about leaders, it's everybody in the organization. I really thank you for your time today, Paul. I really valued your insights and your experience you've shared this morning. If people want to connect with you and get in touch with you, what is the best way of doing that?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. Like a lot of people, I absolutely love to connect with anybody who's LinkedIn who's found this interesting and have further conversations. That'd be great. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, thank you for your time today. Much appreciated.
Thanks, Julie.